Have you ever heard the saying, truth is stranger than fiction? Well, today's story is a perfect example of that. It's a case so unbelievable, so medically baffling, that it continues to puzzle doctors and researchers nearly a century later. We're going to talk about Lina Medina, a name you might not know, but one you'll never forget. Because Lina Medina holds a world record that no one ever wants to break. She is the youngest confirmed mother in all of recorded history. Our story begins in a remote village high in the Andes mountains of Peru. Back in 1939, a little girl named Lina Medina was just 5 years old. Her parents, Tiburcio and Victoria, noticed something very strange. Their daughter's belly was growing larger and larger. At first, they were terrified. They were a humble family from a small, superstitious village, and their first thoughts were of evil spirits or a curse. They even suspected a snake might have somehow gotten inside her. They took her to the local shamans, who performed rituals and offered traditional remedies, but nothing worked. Lina's abdomen just kept swelling. As her condition worsened and she started complaining of pain, her parents knew they had to seek modern medical help. They embarked on a difficult journey from their mountain home to the nearest city, Pisco. There, they took Lina to see a doctor named Gerardo Lozada. Dr. Lozada examined the little girl, and his initial thought was that she had a large abdominal tumor. It was the most logical conclusion given her age and symptoms. He prepared to operate, but first, he decided to run a series of tests, including an X-ray, just to be sure. And what that X-ray revealed would change everything. It wasn't a tumor. Dr. Lozada stared at the images in disbelief. Inside the 5-year-old girl's swollen abdomen was a perfectly formed fetal skeleton. Lina Medina wasn't sick with a tumor. She was pregnant. To be precise, she was nearly 8 months pregnant. You can imagine the shock. It was a medical impossibility. A 5-year-old girl shouldn't even be close to puberty, let alone capable of carrying a child. Dr. Lozada immediately contacted his colleagues in Lima, the capital of Peru. He knew this case was beyond anything he had ever seen. He brought Lina to a larger hospital in Lima, where a team of specialists confirmed the diagnosis. Yes, the 5-year-old girl was pregnant. The news spread like wildfire, first through the medical community in Peru and then around the world. It was a sensation. Newspapers from New York to London ran headlines about the 5-year-old mother. Many people were skeptical, dismissing it as a hoax. But the medical evidence was undeniable. Doctors who examined Lina found that, despite her tender age, her body had the physical characteristics of a post-pubescent woman. She had developed breasts and pubic hair. They discovered she had started menstruating when she was just 8 months old, a condition now known as precocious puberty, but at the time, it was almost unheard of, especially to such an extreme degree. The cause of her extremely early puberty remains a medical mystery. But the most accepted theory is a rare disorder related to the pituitary gland or hypothalamus, the parts of the brain that control hormones. Essentially, something caused her body's reproductive system to activate decades ahead of schedule. Now the doctors in Lima faced a critical decision. A natural birth would be incredibly dangerous for a child of Lina's size. Her pelvis was simply too small and undeveloped to allow a baby to pass through. So, on May 14, 1939, just a month and a half before her 6th birthday, Lina Medina gave birth. The delivery was performed via cesarean section by Dr. Lozada and another surgeon, Dr. Busalu. The world held its breath. And then a healthy baby boy was born. He weighed a solid 6 pounds or about 2.7 kilograms. In a truly surreal moment, the doctors named him Gerardo, in honor of the doctor who first uncovered this incredible medical case, Dr. Gerardo Lozada. Lina Medina, at the age of 5 years, 7 months, and 21 days, had become a mother. The aftermath was just as complicated as the pregnancy. The first major question was who was the father. Lina was just a child herself. She couldn't provide any clear answers. She would play with her dolls while her own babies slept in a crib beside her. When questioned, she gave vague, childlike responses that were impossible to interpret. Suspicion immediately fell on her own father, Tiburcio. He was arrested on suspicion of a heinous crime against his daughter. However, with no evidence against him and Lina's inability to provide any testimony, he was eventually released. The identity of the baby's father was never discovered, and it remains the darkest and most tragic part of this story. To this day, we don't know if her pregnancy was the result of a terrible crime or some other unknown circumstance. Lina and her baby, Gerardo, returned to their village for a while, but the case had attracted too much attention. The Peruvian government stepped in, declaring that Lina and her child were in moral danger, and took them into state custody. They wanted to protect them but also to study them. For years, doctors and scientists monitored Lina and Gerardo's development. So how did life turn out for them? Well, Gerardo was raised alongside Lina as her brother. For the first decade of his life, he believed Victoria and Tiburcio were his parents and Lina was his older sister. It wasn't until he was 10 years old that he discovered the truth, reportedly after being taunted by classmates at school. Imagine the shock of learning that the girl you thought was your sister was actually your mother. Despite this incredibly unusual start to life, Gerardo grew up to be a relatively healthy and normal man. Lina, on the other hand, tried her best to retreat from the spotlight and live a normal life. It was a difficult task. Her name was famous and her story was a global curiosity. She eventually got a job as a secretary in the very clinic in Lima where Dr. Lozada, the man who delivered her baby, worked. He had promised to help her and her son, and he kept that promise, providing for her education and ensuring she had a stable job. In the 1970s, Lina married a man named Raul Jurado and had a second son. This time she was a grown woman in her late 30s. This second child was born 33 years after her first. She lived a quiet, private life in a poor district of Lima, consistently refusing interviews and offers to tell her story for money. She was fiercely protective of her privacy, wanting to put the strange and traumatic events of her childhood behind her. Her first son, Gerardo, the baby who made her famous, lived a full life. Tragically, he passed away in 1979 at the age of 40 from a bone marrow disease. Doctors confirmed his death had no connection to the unusual circumstances of his birth. Lina Medina is reportedly still alive today, well into her 90s, still living in Peru, still guarding her silence. Her case remains a profound medical anomaly. While we now understand the condition of precocious puberty much better, Lina's case is the most extreme ever documented. It challenges our understanding of human development and biology. But beyond the medical facts, it's a deeply human story. A story of a little girl whose childhood was stolen from her, who was thrust into motherhood before she even understood what it meant. A story of a family from a poor village caught in a worldwide media storm. And a story of a woman who, against all odds, sought and found a quiet, normal life for herself. It's a reminder that sometimes the most astonishing stories aren't found in science fiction books, but in the real lives of ordinary people who experience something truly extraordinary. Thank you so much for watching. This story is a heavy one, and it leaves us with more questions than answers. What do you think about this incredible case? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story as fascinating as I did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into incredible true stories. We'll see you in the next one.